New York.
Living large.
Okay, we're live. Hi, everyone. Happy Wednesday. My name is Julia Surikoff. I am the producer of the Future of Storytelling Summit. If you're joining us for the first time, thanks so much for being here. This is our weekly speaker hangout series here on Google Plus every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern. We invite one of our speakers from the summit's past to join us for an online conversation about how technology is impacting the creative industries. So today it's my pleasure to introduce to you Bruce Flohr. He's the Chief Strategy Officer and Executive Vice President of Red Light Management. Hi, Bruce. Do you want to say hi and tell us a little bit about what you do at Red Light Management?
Sure. Good morning, everybody. Bruce Flohr, based in Los Angeles, and I work for a company called Red Light Management, and our core business is we manage over 200 plus artists, ranging from Dave Matthews Band to Lady Antebellum to the Band Perry to Alabama Shakes and so forth and so on. We have been in business for almost 20 plus years. We have a record company called ATO Records. We also have a content media company called Greenlight Media and Marketing, and that'll be some of the crux of what we discuss today as we try to figure out and discuss how the music business is evolving into more of a content creator, and how that content can create stories and allow our artists to have a bigger voice than just the music they create. And fortunately, we have one of our lead singers and songwriters from one of our great bands, OAR, here today. So, Julie, I'd like for you to introduce Mark.
Sure. Thanks, Bruce, and welcome. And Bruce kindly introduced Mark Robarge. He is the lead singer and guitarist of the band OAR. Mark, welcome to Google Plus Hangouts. Thanks for joining us today. Do you want to give a quick introduction as well?
Yes, thank you. My name is Mark Robarge. I'm in the band OAR. We began making records in 1997. I've watched the music business go from tapes to CDs to flash drives to streaming. We've navigated and made our way through it, and we still are out there actively touring, making records, and leading us to a conversation today, which is the current state of the music business, which I think Bruce will make very clear how we survive and how we thrive, actually. But yeah, that's what I do.
Awesome. Well, welcome. So we've kind of set the stage there. Today we're talking about creative partnerships between bands and brands. I just want to say for anyone that's tuning in live, please feel free to send in your questions to Bruce and Mark. You can do so in the Q&A on the Hangout bar. You can also tweet at us. We're at FOST.org, FOST.org. Okay, so I think we're going to start the conversation by showing just a short clip of the FOST film that we created with Bruce in the lead up to the 2014 Future of Storytelling Summit. So if we could cue that film quickly.
When Napster came along and started to take the album into decline, nobody really saw the influence of technology that early on, right? But once the genie was out of the bottle, instead of embracing the technology, which we have now learned to do, they attacked it. That's when I decided it was time to move away from the record business and into the music business. We came up with a concept of helping tell the artist and the brand story. It's a complete re-education process because we're asking the artist and the brand to be part of the creative process together, to help formulate what that arc of the story is going to look like, as opposed to hold up this cue card and this can of shaving cream and read from there.
Awesome. Okay, so let's jump right in. Bruce, in the video you referenced this transition from being in the record business to being in the music business. Can you explain what you mean by this?
Yeah, I think I was fortunate to see the Napster evolution coming, and as a record company employee, we were obviously making profits off the sales of recorded music. And I was working with a couple big bands at the time, and they were selling lots of records, and then out of nowhere I just saw the numbers go on the decline. And I knew it had nothing to do with the quality of the records we were putting out. We were putting out records as good or better than the previous ones that were selling 5 or 6 million copies. And fortunately, a light bulb went off in my head, and I started to do the math and thought, this isn't going to work out. So I felt that I needed to change from the label side, the recording music side, to the artist side, because I felt the power of the business was going to shift to the artist, and I wanted to be on that side of the equation. That's when I joined Red Light Management, and we started to build a company that was really taking what a band does, its entire ecosystem, not just the 10 songs and not just the touring and not just the merchandise, but helping them monetize their passions and their voices so that they could extend their career. And that's the transition between record business and music business. The record business is disintegrating. The music business is growing and thriving and has more touch points to the audience than ever before. We're still learning how to monetize that. We're still struggling with the fact that the majority of the music that's out there people can get for free. But instead of crying in our milk, our team and our bands have decided to say, well, how do we turn that into a positive? And that's the path that we're on now. Great.
And Mark, from an artist's perspective, how have you been kind of confronting this transition? When did you start to notice it, and what's that process of kind of adapting to it been like for you?
Well, that's a really good question. I mean, for us, we began in the basement. We were recording albums in the old-fashioned way, but with no money, selling them out of the trunk, right? So that doesn't exist anymore. The recording part exists, but the selling part doesn't. And we had to maneuver and grow, and the people that didn't maneuver or navigate are no longer working. And we didn't want to end up that way. And at the time, you do alienate some because you're looking toward the future. And we just saw it coming from a mile away, like Bruce said. With the major artists, when the decline was so steady, regular, and exponentially faster month by month, you had to have seen it coming. And we are always and always will be based on our fan base. We're selling singles, but our business is about the live music. And we use our recorded music to extend our live music career. In our case specifically, we use these drivers, these singles, and these songs to team up with brands in order to create a few more years of touring. And it all makes sense when, like Bruce said, you put it in an ecosystem, when you put it all together. Back in the day, you could just sell records and be yourself and do whatever you want, but that's not the case anymore. You really need to think globally. You really need to think as if you're running a company, as opposed to recording how you felt that day. I do maintain that every single lyric and song we write comes straight from the heart. But when we're done recording it, the manner in which we market it and the manner in which we get it out to our fans and what we do with it after that fact has changed dramatically. And we need to team up with people like Bruce who know where things are going to go. You can't be settled where things are now. You have to think where they're going next year and get there first.
Mm-hmm.
Julia, now would be a good time if you're okay. Can I pop in for a second?
Yeah, go for it.
So let's go ahead, and I think we have a clip of something that the band OAR did recently, and let me set this clip up. So this is a perfect example of extending a normal opportunity. The band was asked to play a show at one of the venues that they sell out every year, Red Rocks. In fact, last year they were the only band to sell it out twice. And they were asked to do that show from a combination of Pandora, the radio streaming service, and Jeep. And the band was paid well for that performance. That could have been it. We could have shown up, played the show, gotten paid, waved goodbye, and off we rode. The band wanted to have a more authentic relationship with the brand and have a more, okay, well, if we're going to go play for Jeep, why? What are they all about? What do they stand for? So we asked to create a day where we could spend time with the Jeep people and the Jeep products. And that way we felt we could stand on stage, perform to our audience, but also when somebody said, hey, why did you do that thing for Jeep? The guys had a real answer. Oh, well, we happened to drive the Jeeps up a mountain for all day long, and guess what, right? But that was on the impetus of the band doing it. It was not part of the ask. It was part of the let's take it to the next level. So this thing could be a bigger win for everybody. And the last component of that is a viral video goes out with the band's music, right? So there's a video of the band that you're going to watch driving the Jeeps with our music next to it. That's another subtle win for us, as opposed to just playing the show in Colorado. Shall we roll it?
Let's do it.
Here's my attempt to describe. You make me feel so alive. I'll break it down one time. So listen, line by line. Line by line. Listen, line by line.
We drove some Jeep Wranglers today.
Yes, we did.
And we drove them like we stole them.
So I'll just stand till the band will play an encore. Give me some more. You're my favorite song. I just won't sing along.
I mean, Red Rocks is just probably the most beautiful amphitheater in the country. It's always special for us to come back here, and this is our second time this year, so we're really blessed in that sense.
Great. So I think we were experiencing a little bit of technical difficulty there, but maybe we can drop the link to the trailer in the Hangout so anybody can kind of watch it on their own. But great clip. Thank you for setting that up, Bruce. Mark, I'm curious from the artist perspective, what was that creative process like working with Bruce and his team at Red Light Management? Some of the challenges, advantages, lessons learned?
Well, I mean, I've worked and known Bruce for over a decade. He was way ahead of the game trying to sign us when we were one of the biggest independent bands in the world. And he was ahead of the game managing us 10 years ago along with our other managers, and now he's leading our team into the future, I feel like. We didn't really have any issues at all. It was, and the way we operate is collaborative in the sense that we always get in a room, we always look at it from as objectively as possible, which is, I know sounds crazy, but you're forced to. You can't be so precious to think that everything you think is right. We need to step back and listen to each other. And that's how we operate. It's Bruce throwing out the general idea, a couple of us coming back and saying, well, look, we want to do this show with Jeep. Red Rocks has been a tradition of ours as a band for our fans. It has never been connected with the brand before. How are you going to make this mean something more than us getting paid to play a venue we're going to play anyway? That doesn't make sense to us or our fans. Bruce, how are we going to make it make sense? And then Bruce comes back and says, well, let's get in the cars. Let's drive them. You guys own them anyway. Tell people that. Be honest and just be yourself. The key of the whole thing was be yourself. You know, don't dress in a different outfit. Don't talk differently. Drive them around and then interview about what you felt. So Bruce, in a sense, is basically saying, you guys be yourselves. Let me explode that and let me connect the dots. And if you feel uncomfortable for 5 seconds, we'll kill the whole thing. We don't do anything we don't want to do. And Bruce's job is to make it make sense for everybody objectively on the outside who's looking in and saying, yes, that makes sense. OAR are a band from the basement, guys who've known each other their whole lives, who've owned Jeeps their whole lives. Why wouldn't we do this? So there really weren't any hiccups. There weren't any hurdles on my end. On his end, I'm sure there were 1,000 hurdles he had to deal with.
You know, Julia, he brings up a really good point, and I think that hopefully your audience is interested in this in the sense that as we enter into this phase of how do artists expand their careers, how do storytellers tell the stories they want to tell, and who's funding all of that, right? More and more we all know the brands are getting into creating their own content. This is a perfect example of that. The way to keep it real is what Mark said. You have to know yourself. one of the most important questions I ask the artists that I deal with is, tell me the 5 things you're passionate about. So I can try to figure out a way to get those passions promoted, paid for, or enhanced by a third party. That third party used to be a record company. And what Mark was talking about is we didn't have to go drive Jeeps because we were making so much money selling records. Take that money off the table, Mark still has a band of 12 people that have to travel around the world. That requires, these kind of things help us do that without us cringing going, what were we thinking?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, Bruce is right. I mean, and I'll make it quick, but the most important thing, you as an artist, you get into a band to express yourself, not to express somebody else. That doesn't change just because no one's paying for records. You don't have to change yourself to fit into some other algorithm. You're not going to sell records as that other person either. Be yourself. Hire the right people who can take you and put you out there. And if I'm out there promoting a brand or a product, I don't care what you think about that. I don't care if you think I'm selling out, because I'm being myself. I'm endorsing products and things that I use, and also just not really changing anything. So I don't really feel bad. It works. It works because we're honest about it and up front. Bruce is telling everybody on this thing exactly how it went down because we have nothing to hide. That's the business I want to be in, where someone can look at what I like and expand upon it, and I have no hard feelings about it, and I'll continue to write my songs from the gut and sing them from the gut and let somebody else sell them.
Mm-hmm.
Julia, another point here
Sure.
is for the people in the audience who are like, well, yeah, but Mark, you're a big rock star. Of course you're going to get all these opportunities, right? Well, of course Jeep's going to call you because you play Red Rocks, and that's a valid statement. But what they also need to realize is more and more brands are looking for authenticity, which is a word everybody overuses, and discovery. So that singer-songwriter who's still playing coffee shops still has the ability to partner with the right person that they align with, if they have a point of view. You have to have a point of view. What do you stand for? I like your music. What else? That's the problem with streaming. We can hear everybody's music, but we're not engaging enough. The engagement needs to come from what's under after you peel back the onion. And a lot of artists or storytellers, when you peel back the onion, actually have nothing to say. And that's what we're trying to change.
And so at the end of the day, in this particular example, what was the return on investment? How do you gauge success? Were there more Jeeps sold? Did record sales go up? Or is it more about spreading awareness of the band and their story?
Well, that's a great question, okay, and I can answer some of it. I don't work for Jeep, so I don't know if Jeep is going to have a banner year because OAR drove Jeeps up a mountain. However, I will tell you the win for the two sides. For the brand, they got to have a band interact with their product in a very real way, and they got an amazing amount of footage out of it and got to use that on their socials, which gave Jeep a cool look. For the band, we were able to get a significant amount of tickets to give away to our fans in the marketplace. We also got a piece of content that not only reached the 10,000 people that were at Red Rocks that night, but 130,000 people that saw that and still see it on the socials and the the media out there today, because Jeep did a buy and reached through our Facebook and reached through the Twitter. So hopefully, what I think the win for OAR is our core going, oh my gosh, how cool! Look at Mark and Jerry and Richard. They're driving a Jeep. That's awesome. And then another guy going, huh, OAR? I never knew about it. Or, gee, I never realized they were that cool. Or, wow, what's that song? Those little impressions that you wouldn't normally get, right? That's what the win was for us. On an extension of that, we have done programs for other companies where we have seen a lift in sales. Where for Hyundai's regeneration project, we launched a car off the back of that campaign. That car sat on the lot on an average of 44 days prior to that movie being released. After the movie came out, the car stayed on the lot 4 days. So there are real metrics that can be applied here, and don't think for a second that the brands don't want to see a lift in some way, shape, or form. Some brands want a halo effect of perception. Some brands want to sell shoes and shirts. And you can take their money all day long, but if you're not moving the needle in some way, shape, or form, that money will go away.
Mm-hmm. You know, I want to turn it over to our online audience now. We have a couple of questions coming in on Twitter. Can this strategy still work for unestablished brands?
Unestablished brands?
Excuse me, unestablished bands. Bands that maybe don't have a core fan base like OAR, that are just kind of emerging and getting their start.
Yeah, I fully believe so. I believe in the big fish, little pond scenario. So whatever artist you are, and whoever asked that question, take what city you live in, draw a 60-mile circle around your home, and go and start becoming the biggest artist in that circle. And the local brewery, the local coffee shop, the local clothing store will need you to play their opening of something, or the petting fair, petting zoo, or something. It might not all be great, sexy looks, but brands will give you $100 here, $1,000 here if your value. If you can drive traffic into their establishment, they will find ways to partner with you. But you have to think, you have to bring it down to your ground level and not sit there and go knock on the door of Pepsi and go, hey, I'm here, why don't you like me? Go knock on the door of the local pizza shop.
Mm-hmm. Another
it
question.
Hasn't changed.
Oh, sorry, go ahead, Mark.
No, I mean, he's so dead on. I mean, it hasn't changed in that respect. When we started in 1995, 96, that's exactly what we did. We were worried about our high school, our junior, and then the other high schools. And then boom, boom, boom. Then we went to Ohio State just because it had 70,000 people and 100 bars on one street. We went bar to bar to bar. When they wouldn't hire us to play, we would rent the place out on their worst night and go and sell tickets door to door, literally door to door. And that's how we built it. And that's how you got to build it now. And make sure your songs are good. If you don't, I've sat with Corn Capshaw, who owns and runs the entire thing, and said, hey, Corn, why can't I get this, that, and the other? And he looked at me in the eyes and he goes, well, why don't we talk about it when your song is there and it's doing and it's connecting? Then all that other stuff gets a lot easier. Mm-hmm. So make sure your music is honest and there and sounds great and is you, and then localize it. And Bruce is dead on. I mean, going to Pepsi will happen if you island hop your way to it.
Mm-hmm. Another question here. Are some brands reluctant to work collaboratively with brands? And I think the answer to that is probably yes. Mark, why would you argue that they shouldn't be? Why should they let go of those reservations from your personal experience?
Well, look, I started out like every other precious, stubborn singer-songwriter person who thought that my stuff was my stuff, and if you changed one lyric, I'll never forget the first time a dear friend, producer of mine, asked that I change a lyric. I cried. I thought that he was making me the biggest bum in the world. Fast forward 20 years, and all I ever want to do is collaborate with people. All I ever want to do is get in a room with 10 of my friends and write songs, or 10 business guys and talk about what they do, how I can make that story told through what I do. I mean, that's what life is about. Last night I did a show in Salt Lake City with ballet, world music, monologue, pop music, and avant-garde art and environmental art all smashed into one, because collaboration is the future. I think we're human beings. We're supposed to share our thoughts. So what I've learned is, in the beginning, of course you want to hold on tightly. And fast forward 20 years, you can still hold on tightly. And as long as what you're doing is honest and you, who cares if someone wants to work with you? I mean, I think that's beautiful. I think that's what life is all about. That's why we have relationships. That's why we have dogs and cats. It's because we want to live with people and with things. And that's what collaboration is.
And Bruce, I imagine these kinds of partnerships require a certain breed of brand. They have to be brave enough and courageous enough to allow the artist creative license, and they want to protect their artistic integrity.
Yeah, I think the challenge for all of us now as future storytellers is we have to trust one another. And a lot of times brands, every brand, specifically music, feels like they need to have some sort of music play or some sort of lane in music. And not every brand belongs in music, and not everyone can do music right. So the brands, I think what we have to do is find more and more trust between the creative, the storyteller, and the person who's funding that story. And if the two things, it needs to start with, what story are we trying to tell? Does that help the person writing the check, and does that help the creator? If it's a mishmash, it all goes south, right? But if it's like, wow, you're already living that life, you're already telling that story that's talking to our customer, can we hang out with you? Can we give you support? And maybe our customer will go, wow, thanks Jeep, thanks, Hyundai, thanks Illy Coffee. That's what we're looking for, as opposed to, hey Mark, what'd you think of the Jeep? That never happened. You drive the Jeep, they shot you. It's like, hey, that was awesome. We got to go up, we got to put it in four-wheel drive and almost throw out the transmission. That was fun. Who doesn't want to do that?
Right. It's telling a compelling story is what makes it most memorable. It all comes down to the story.
It all comes down to the story, absolutely.
And I think that's a great note for us to kind of close on. We have about a minute left, so just any final pearls of wisdom that you can share with our audience today.
Mark?
Well, for me, it was when I was 12, and it is the same today. There's no place for being self-conscious and creating a story. There's no place in worrying about what people think and creating songs. As long as I or you guys out there writing songs and stories is be yourself till the end. Whatever that is, just be proud, be yourself, and be open to other people expanding upon that. And there is nothing wrong with that. At its core, I want my songs to be finished and all mine. And then once they're done, hey, anybody who can get them out there is a friend. And that's the attitude that I've always had. It's the attitude that I think has taken us further and further through this declining record business where, it's kind of like a shark. You got to keep moving or you die.
And Bruce?
The only thing I'd like to say is I've been doing this for a very long time, and I never thought I'd be doing it like this. The traditional record business, I thought I was just going to follow that path. I've had to pivot several times in my career, and I've never been more excited about where it sits right now. I don't think a lot of us in the business have never worked harder, but we're doing things that are way beyond what the traditional just playing music, just selling tickets. It's an exciting time to be in a creative space, whether you're a writer, whether you're a musician, whether you're a CMO of a brand. There are no rules, and if you have good ideas, or if you have a budget that you're willing to take chances with, you can come up with some pretty spectacular award-winning stuff.
Well, thank you both so much. You guys are certainly setting the standard for kind of this evolution and this new place where the music business is going. Rock star examples. So I hope it's inspiring some of you out there to think of this new innovative approach as well. So yeah, Bruce, Mark, thanks for being here. Audience, join us again next week. We're here every Wednesday at 12:30 p.m. Eastern for Hangouts. Thanks, guys.
Cheers.